Good afternoon. We call the meeting of Liberty County Board of Commissioners to order. Good to see everyone who's able to be here, and those who are watching us on Facebook Live. Good to have you in our audience. Mr. Brown, has the meeting been properly advertised?
It has, sir.
Thank you, sir. I see evidence thereof. Let us all stand now as Mr. Moses will lead us in our prayer, pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this beautiful day and your bountiful blessings. We pray, Father God, that you would endow this body with spiritual wisdom and guidance and insight, Father, as they transact the business of community. And we pray, Father, that as they move forward, you continue to give them what they need in this hour. We pray for all our county employees as they engage in the business of this county. This we thank you for in the powerful and penetrating name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. We'll now need a motion to go into public hearing. Commissioners, if you will, please.
Mr. Chairman, we don't have a quorum.
Yes, sir. We're going to grab Commissioner Bowen.
I was gonna say, yeah,
He's
got on the
in-house.
Does that count if somebody's on the phone or not?
I'm fixing to get that up there, too.
Yeah, I thought he was.
Back there? Okay.
Yeah, he was talking when I came in.
This is ridiculous.
Hello. I just want to make sure you're here. I'm going to put you on hold and open the line. Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I do have Commissioner Walden on the phone also, who's out for illness,
Okay,
but is available.
all right. Thanks, sir.
So the record will reflect those present, Chairman Lovett, Commissioners Thrift, Stevens, and Commissioner Walden by phone.
All right. So now I know we don't need the, well, we have it now. So
And Commissioner,
we'll need the quorum to vote, but not to host a hearing.
it would be good to have a quorum to host it too, although not required by law.
Okay, all right. Well, Chair, entertain a motion to host a hearing.
Yes, sir, I'll make that motion.
Second? One second, the motion to go into public hearing.
I made a motion.
You just need a second for the public hearing is all.
Second.
Yeah. Everybody clear now?
Yeah.
All right. Everybody in favor, raise your right hand. We're now in public hearing. Thank you. Ms. McLaughlin?
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is our third and final public hearing on the proposed 2020 millage rate. Sorry, I'm gonna have to take this off. So I just want to go over some things with you that you've seen twice before, but we'll go over them again before you adopt your final millage rate tonight. This first slide here illustrates for you the growth in the gross digest, the net digest, and the exemptions. And you can see down here, I've illustrated for you the percentage of the growth in the gross digest. And it's good to note that over the last few years, we've been between 2 and 3%, 2 and 3.5% in growth for the gross digest, which is really good. The next slide, though, however, when you isolate the exemptions, the growth in the exemptions is between 3 and almost 8%. So the growth in the exemptions is outpacing the growth in the digest. So that does impact your net digest, which you actually tax on. And the exemptions this year were $307 million. and I'll discuss what some of those exemptions are. These are a list of the exemptions, and as you know, Liberty County is an exemption-rich community, which is good for its citizens, but it does present its challenges to your local governments who are trying to operate on that reduced amount of revenue. But for the exemptions, you'll notice almost all of the exemptions went down except for our two largest exemptions, which are the disabled veteran and the Freeport. Those two exemptions, disabled veteran and Freeport, make up about 74% of your total exemptions. So Liberty County is very attractive to retiring veterans, and we do lots for them, which I applaud. But again, it does present challenges as we try and fund some of those services that we're mandated to fund. This slide illustrates for you what the millage rate has done. Now, the county has two millage rates. It has a millage rate for the citizens of Hinesville and then a millage rate for everyone else. And you can see over the course from 2010 until 2020 what those millage rates have done. When we've been able to keep them steady or even decrease them in good years, we have. But over the course of years, we have grown from 11.3 to 14.8 within the city of Hinesville. And in the unincorporated area, 11.98 up to 16.3 now. This is one of my favorite charts, and I think it provides a lot of information. And this describes or illustrates for you the difference between your real growth and your reassessed growth in the digest. And as you know, there's two types of growth. The real growth, which is when something brand new comes on the digest that has never been there before. The real growth is the green. The reassessed growth is when the properties that currently are already on the digest are revalued, either upward or downward. So you can see we have had years where that reevaluation has been negative, to the point where even in 2015, even though we had a good amount of growth, we had so much negative reassessed growth that our net digest actually decreased that year. I want to talk briefly about the Service Delivery Strategies Act, House Bill 489, and this talks about the duplication of services in between governments. So the city of Hinesville provides for some of the same services that the county contributes to. So for those residents in Hinesville, I should not have to, if you're a resident in Hinesville, you should not have to pay for that same service two times, once on your city bill and once on your county tax bill. For those services, we do what we call a rollback rate. We identify a millage rate equivalent to those specific services that are duplicated, and we roll that millage rate back for those citizens in Hinesville. That's why we have two millage rates in the county. Some of those duplicated services are things like fire protection, LCPC, the library, the chamber. Those are one entity that receives funding from both the city and the county. So again, those citizens in Hinesville should not have to pay for that service twice. This is kind of a reconciliation just to show you how we arrived or where we will go with the proposed millage rates. So if you take your 6.3 proposed millage rate in the unincorporated digest, that will produce about $6.7 million worth of revenue. 16.3 mils in the unincorporated other municipalities, all the other municipalities other than Hinesville, and that will generate about $4.2 million in revenue. Then you take the 4.8 and you apply it to the Hinesville digest of 650 million, or 650 million, and you get about 9.6 million. In total, that will generate about $20.6 million. If we reduce that for a 96% collection rate, which in the past years, we have been somewhere between 95 and 97% collection rate by the end of the year. So 96 is reasonable to assume. We've never achieved 100% collection rate. The lowest we've achieved in some real bad years was around 92, and I think the most we've achieved is a little over 97. So if we adjust that for a 96% collection rate at 19.8, you can see over here our general fund budget that we adopted was $35.7 million. If I back out all the other revenue that we've budgeted, to include the CARES funding that we just received, we need $19.7 million in property tax revenue. By proposing these millage rates, we will generate about a $31,000 surplus, which is immaterial, because if we actually collect 97%, I think we generate about a $200,000 surplus, but if we collected a 95% collection rate, we're at about a $200 or $200,000 deficit. So that's about as close as we can get. What does that do for everybody's actual taxes? I just put up here just an example of a $150,000 home, not taking into consideration any exemptions that that home might have. But if you had a $150,000 home last year in the unincorporated area at a millage rate of 15.3, your county property taxes were $918. This year, that same home with no exemptions and no other increases or decreases will require $978. It's about a $60 increase for the year. That same home in the city of Hinesville last year, the millage was 14.44. It produced $866. And this year, with a 14.8 millage rate, that same house will produce $888, an increase of $22 for the year. That's all I have, unless anybody has any specific questions for me on anything. We
Any
can open
questions?
it up to the floor.
Any questions for Mr. McLaughlin from the commission? You got something to say, Mr. Brown? Oh, sorry.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Yes, sir.
you said we were needing what, 19 million?
Yes, sir.
I just got when you said 19 million, if you go back to your exemptions, which was, one of them was 52%, right?
Yes, sir.
If we had that 19 million, we've been in good shape.
Well, that particular exemption, Freeport this year is $159 million. That would have generated about $2.6 million in property tax revenue. And the disabled veteran exemption would have generated about $1 million. In total, your exemptions would have produced about $5 million in revenue. Now, there's a lot of discussion on exemptions and the pros and cons of them, and the necessity of having them to generate business and make this county attractive for business. So, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we just voted to renew that Freeport, right? Wasn't that?
No.
Actually, they'll be talking about the resolution tonight for the e-commerce.
Oh, e-commerce, okay.
E-commerce.
Okay, okay.
And
But that's another, yes.
my point is, on this Freeport exemption, you've got some industries that have been in Liberty County now for 40 years. They are still getting 100%. And I know, I've heard both commissioners up here say, we don't need to bother, but we need to take another view at it. And at least go out there, and like I said before, go out there and educate the public on what Freeport is. A lot of people is not aware that it's still 100% for a company that has been here 40 years. I mean, to get a company to come in, yeah, maybe 100%, but do it on a declining scale as years go by. Because this is actually one thing that I have really looked at, and it's been a sore issue with me ever since I've been on this board. And I don't think no one up here can actually tell me the last time it was ever voted on or looked at.
I don't have that answer.
Well, it wouldn't be voted on again unless the commission moved to reconsider either lowering their amount or getting rid of the amount. So it would be up to the commission to try to call a referendum to do that.
I wouldn't say get rid of it, but at least lower it.
Right, right.
You know, you got to have something to have companies to come in. But we can't keep on putting the baby ball in their mouth all those years.
Sure, another thing I was going to note that I think if you look at it in the exemptions outpacing the digest growth inside the city of Hinesville, what you're seeing is a normal cost of living factor that goes in there, say cost of living, but normal attrition rate didn't really, for the city of Hinesville residents, the services in there didn't proportionately increase above that. So I think that's the normal attrition rate of about 2.5%. As I look at the unincorporated area, though, the big benefit those folks are really getting for that $40 difference, if you will, is full-time fire protection. And I think everybody talked about that, but that number equates, especially for those unincorporated residents, of now having full-time firemen that are there to be able to answer those calls. They do provide backup to the city of Hinesville too sometimes, so, but that is kind of what those big differences are there.
Right. Our budget this year increased by over $1.5 million just for the firefighters. And as you know, by the end of this fiscal year, we will have 18 full-time firefighters, full-time fire chief and a full-time deputy chief, which is something this board has been working on for some years and has finally taken a stand that fire and rescue is an essential service and it's going to be funded. And we made a commitment to do that when you adopted your budget in June. And the good news was that there was enough growth in the digest where we didn't actually have to increase, by 2 mills or $1.5 million. So that was the good news. And sales tax continues to go up. So, it was just a hard hit this year.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead.
And don't be afraid to say this, that also, thanks to Splosh, the building was purchased, all of the buildings for fire service now has been purchased through the 1 cent sales tax and the equipment. So actually what we are paying for only is the
The
employees.
operations,
Employee.
the operations of it.
And that's what I was going to piggyback on that a little bit about the SPOS paying for the buildings and the rolling stock, pretty much, that we have out there. And, but also, most of the growth took place in the city of Hinesville.
Significant growth.
Significant in the city,
Yes.
as we see a lot of subdivisions and new homes going up. But there's no doubt we're in a little bit better position than we were when it had flipped
Yes.
about 5 years ago, so.
Yes.
Overall, and I think the county departments and the commissioners are trying to do their best in holding the line and, what we're spending, trying to be good stewards of the money.
Yeah. I mean,
But there are, and we must reiterate that, there are a lot of exemptions for our military or whomever retires in Liberty County. And, a lot of folks, some folks know it, some don't, but there's a lot of exemptions for those men and women that retire here.
The other thing too is we continue to grow, and you also are continued with some of those challenges that come from the state where they require you to provide certain services without providing the funding.
Right.
I go back to say, when I first started with the county in 2002, our general fund budget was $11.5 million. Our general fund budget today is $35.7 million. And when I look around the various departments within the county, road department, building and maintenance, and elections, and, the tax commissioner and tax assessors, and even admin and finance, it's not like we've added a lot of employees. I
No,
mean,
we
we've done what we can with what we have, and have only added and increased in areas that we absolutely had to.
And good thing you mentioned that, because after the census and we get the numbers back, we'll truly know, we'll have a good number as to how many people are actually
Yes.
in Liberty County and Forest
Yes.
that we provide. I don't think we've got a number yet.
We don't got a number?
I think one last note too is that, but an example of some of those state things, the hand recount that just had to happen, necessary, but totally unfunded by the state,
So expensive.
totally borne by the county. The runoffs, even though they're not county offices that'll
Yep.
occur, whole nother election for
Yeah,
some congressional offices.
yeah,
It's something we have to do, but it's unfunded from any other source, but
right.
tax dollars, I mean, that's where it has to come from.
I think I've mentioned that to you in my monthly reports, that I totally anticipate the voter registration elections office running out of funding before the end of the year, with especially,
Easy.
with the COVID stuff now, and the recount and the runoffs, and this was the biggest election we've ever had.
Right.
So significant.
And it's probably not going back to the way it was.
I don't think it will.
We hope, but
I made a note here, accentuate the positive. Y'all really have done that. You know, we can look at the increases you've shown for the citizens of Hinesville and the county, but when we look at the positives, we really have done well as a growing community. And I'm glad I'm not in a place that's not growing.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
Give me the problems of a growing community any day of a community that's not growing. And when you make your monthly reports about our sales tax and how it's caught up and now is exceeding,
No, it is.
it's just
Still looking good.
looking real good.
You're ready for a motion, Chairman?
Just, we gotta open it up to public here in case there's somebody who has something to say about it. And then too, I called Mr. Brown, I said, have we stopped mosquito spraying? He said, no. I said, well, and there are some counties that don't pay for mosquito spray, you know, so some of the things that we enjoy, we take for granted, we really do take for granted. But this time it's open to the public for public hearing. I know, are we monitoring Facebook for questions? Someone in the audience? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir, would you come to the podium and make yourself known to us, please, sir?
I'm Johnny P. Howard. I live at 244 North Maple Drive here in town. And I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and to express my sentiments about property taxes. It is not my intention to irritate anyone or I'm just wanting to express my opinion on these matters here. First, I wish to bring up the situation with the 3 meetings that all the agencies are required to hold before the millage rate and taxes are increased. And I read in the paper that you've already established the millage rate, in today's paper, in fact, Hinesville paper. And the Board of Commissioners already decided to increase the millage rate and taxes without the consent
I
of.
think that was the Board of Education,
They adopted theirs.
the Board of Education,
All right,
not the
okay.
county.
So anyway, we have a few people here tonight that are wanting to possibly express their issues also. But anyway, the scheduling is, I feel, in my opinion, is not conducive to the taxpayers' availability to attend these meetings. Times, as far as I'm concerned, are extremely inconvenient. Citizens that are employed that would like to be here have a choice of either not eating their lunch at some of these schedules or in order to attend. And then you have the evening meetings such as this one here where you have a large number of citizens traveling to and forth, back and forth from Savannah and the paper mills at the time when this meeting is being held. And I'm just kind of under the impression that the scheduling primarily benefits you folks and not the citizens of the county. I'd like you to reconsider next year possibly making your meetings at a different time and maybe come up with an idea to encourage more of the voter citizens to attend. I'm in the opinion that property taxes are totally unfair. Although I've been paying them since I've been a resident here. I am retired military, but I do not have one of those exemptions that the lady spoke about earlier. I don't qualify for 100% disability. Anyway, this penalizes citizens that have already paid taxes when they purchase their property. A sales tax, in my opinion, is the only fair way to levy taxes on citizens. Everyone would pay an equal percentage, not me paying all these taxes that everybody else pays and then get hit with another $2,000 that folks who are living in apartments and everywhere else in the community, they're only going to Walmart and paying that sales tax, and that's it. So if the sales tax was increased, say to 15 to 20%, that would ease my burden, okay? I can't speak for everybody else in Hinesville, I can only speak for myself, so, but that's the way I see it. A sales tax, I think, is the only fair way to tax your citizens. I do not think that burdensome property taxes are what our founding fathers envisioned or had in mind for the American people. We, the people, have already paid enough by shedding our blood and giving our lives to establish this nation. Today, we are living under the heavy hand of a King George-like administration and government. Again, this is my opinion, okay? I don't want to irritate anyone in this room, but I have a right to my opinion. Americans have rights under the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. These guarantee life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Under such exorbitant property tax tyranny, we, the people of Hinesville, Liberty County, are being fleeced of our monetary blessings. We elected representatives to serve we the people. Instead, such as yourselves, we the people serving our elected representatives. That's what I see here. Our representatives, I believe, are serving themselves in their own personal interests, that you're growing government, you're making new government agencies, and you're creating social programs that are way out of line. I say let the parents feed their own children at home. That includes breakfast. That's the way I was raised. Let parents pack bag lunches for those children that go to school. That's what I was dealing with when I was a youngster. Let parents purchase computers for their children as well as internet access. The Board of Commissioners and other taxing agencies have created a nanny state where the willingly uneducated, the willingly unemployed, and the just plain lazy are provided for from cradle to grave. This is a communist-like socialism, and I believe it has to stop somewhere unless we just give up our freedoms, our liberties, our Bill of Rights, and the United States Constitution. Elected representatives must listen to the people, their voters, and their constituents. Thank you for allowing me to come before you and to voice my opinion. I hope, since you've already made a decision on these matters, I imagine you have, next year maybe might be a better year for everyone else when it comes to property taxes. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Howard.
One quick question, before you leave. Was this an inconvenience for you to come up here this evening?
Not for me.
Well, no, what I thought was a concern of yours, we holding our meetings where you couldn't get, because both our mid-month and first of the month.
Yes, sir.
Are all is held in afternoons. We try to make it convenient for the people so they can attend.
When I worked in Savannah for 20-plus years, I made several of the meetings. I was able to speak to my employer and say, we've got this situation down in my hometown here where I'd like to attend this meeting, and it happens to be at this time, such and such a time. And he says, well, will you be back? And I said, well, certainly. And that's, go ahead. Yeah. But there are a lot of folks out there, I don't think, that have that ability, especially when it comes to them making a decision whether they're going to eat lunch or in their car.
We're not talking about eating lunch now. Our meetings are held at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the evening.
Sure.
So we give them time.
Uh-huh.
We're not taking away from a lunchtime.
I disagree.
But
I disagree with you,
You
sir.
disagree?
Yes, I
So
disagree.
what time should we be holding it?
You should be holding it roughly in the mornings or in the late
Oh,
evenings.
in the morning,
Yes.
when people are at work.
No, I don't want to duel with you. You know, I'm just saying, this is
trying
my
to figure
opinion.
out what time would you think the meetings, because we're flexible. But if you think we should hold it in the morning while people are at work, can't come and say, well, I gotta work, I can't make.
Oh, they can't come at lunchtime either. You know, how many of the
We'll hold them
residents
at
in
lunchtime.
Hinesville
We'll hold them
are
at-
here now? There's just
Okay. Thank you.
a handful.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Howard, before you leave real quick, actually, I'm sitting in a different seat because of social distancing, but I'm Commissioner Justin Frazier from District 2. In your public comments, you said that we are increasing public projects or
Social projects.
social projects. Which ones have we created?
You know better than I do. You know, there's a laundry list of them.
Well, Ms. Howard, because you made you accused us of creating them.
Excuse
so-
me, I didn't accuse anybody of doing anything. I voiced an opinion,
Okay.
okay, which is my First Amendment right, without you harassing me for doing so.
I'm not a harasser, I'm just
Well, you
asking a
certainly
question.
are.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
I will make a comment about that. First of all, I wish everyone and our kids could be financially stable with their parents where they can't afford to feed them. But I can tell you now, with me being on this commission, our summer lunch program is not going nowhere. We will always protect our children.
Well, let them take their welfare checks that they're spending alcohol and drugs on, and
Oh,
use
yeah?
that to feed their kids.
I got you. Appreciate it, Mr. Howard.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully he lives in one of y'all districts.
Questions from Facebook? None? Okay, all right,
We just need a motion to close that hearing and then
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion second, we close the public hearing and go into regular session?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So move, Mr. Chair.
We got a
Or second, whichever.
All right, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, now we're back in the regular session.
Okay. And just for the record, your second meeting, your public hearing, was at 6 o'clock. This one was at 5, and it could be considered to do two 6 o'clock meetings next time. But,
there's a requirement by state law that one of those not occur in the evening, so it has to be
Yeah.
in the daytime.
so one has to be in the,
State law sets one of those midday.
Yeah.
Or a daytime meeting.
one, it has to be before a certain time and then after a certain time. But yes, we could, instead of having one at 5 and one at 6, we could have 2 at 6 PM. But your second, I just wanted, for the record,
Right.
you did have a 6 o'clock public hearing.
And at 12.
And a noon, as the state requires.
And also for the record, that we all get something in the mail from our tax commissioner too, right? To pay taxes? We
Oh,
all-
yes, we do.
Okay, I would just want to make that for the record as well.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And, okay.
All right, your presentation, ma'am?
Drugs and alcohol.
Okay, so,
Yes, sir.
that was Eddie.
Commissioner Walden?
Yeah, calm down.
Yes, and also, for the record, I believe budget presentations were at least 4 hours, and I don't remember how many days we were on that, so there's opportunity there for everybody to hear what was going on.
When we did have our budget presentations.
Yes.
Is that what he's referring to? When we had budget
Yes.
presentations by our department heads and the other elected officials.
And
The
honestly,
public was invited? or
yes, and I encourage the citizens to come to that, because that's kind of where it starts.
Right.
With the
Right.
budget.
That's right.
Because once you've adopted your budget, then you have to turn around and you have to adopt a millage rate to support that budget. So really, the work begins when you're adopting your budget, to identify what programs you do and don't want. We normally gear up for that in the spring, and we do hold public hearings on the budget as well, and we advertise those. We hold those in the evening. So,
like he said, sometimes those are
that's really where I wish citizens would become more involved,
Right.
is in the budget process, so they could actually understand all of the different state mandate requirements that you're challenged with, along with the other essential services that we provide. So, and it is an
And that's
education
normally
process.
in the morning sometimes, midday.
Well, no, the public hearings are in the evenings, but the workshops are
Workshop, I'm
scattered throughout,
throughout.
yeah. And we take public input from that.
right, right.
Yeah. So I encourage citizens, but for the record, I have 3 resolutions that we will need to adopt this evening. and I will need you to sign the resolutions. Mr. Jones is going to be sending these to Atlanta tomorrow. The first one is for the unincorporated area. I'll just read it for the record. Georgia Liberty County 2020 Tax Levy Resolution. To pay the expense of administration of county government, to pay principal and interest on debt, to build and repair public buildings and bridges, to pay the expense of courts, the maintenance and support of prisoners, to pay sheriffs, coroner, and for litigation, to build and maintain a system of county roads, for public health purposes and for the collection and preservation of public records and vital statistics, to provide for payments of old age assistance to aged persons in need for payment of assistance to needy blind, to dependent children, and other welfare benefits consistent with the laws as created by the General Assembly, to provide for fire protection of forest lands and for the further conservation of natural resources, to provide medical and other care and hospitalization for the indigent sick, to acquire, improve, and maintain public facilities, to provide for workers' compensation and retirement or pension funds for officers and employees, to provide reasonable reserves for public improvement. The mill rate for all above is 16.3. For school maintenance, support, and lunch program, 16.358. For the hospital authority, 3.843. For the industrial authority, 2.0. For a total mill rate of all purpose, 38.501. It is ordered that the above and foregoing levy for the year 2020 in the amount of 38.501 mills be spread upon the minutes of the board and be published as required by law this 19th day of November 2020.
So, Mr. Chairman, let me make this clear. The hospital authority did not increase,
No.
and
we-
neither did the development authority?
That's correct.
Okay, so the one.
And
is-
neither did the Board of Education.
They held the line?
They held
Okay.
it the same.
Okay,
Even though the paper advertised a property tax increase,
Right.
because,
they held their millage rate the same, keeping the reassessed growth.
Okay.
So they did not increase their millage rate. However, if your property was revalued and your assessment went up,
Right.
then you will probably pay more taxes because you have the same millage rate but a higher value on your property. But every other entity maintained the same millage rate.
okay, all right.
So the growth of the community, where people are shopping and buying and building houses and stuff, helps us all at the end of the day.
Helps all of us. It sure does.
And those people who are shopping are not just Liberty County shoppers.
No, nope.
But at the end of the
They're
day,
Long County, they're
that
Wayne
growth,
County,
yeah,
Bryan County.
that offsets what Donald Lovett would have to pay
Yes, sir.
by being able to share the wealth of the growth.
That's right.
All right, I want to make that clear.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you need a motion for that
Is
resolution?
Commissioner Frazier want to be in here?
We got enough.
We still got.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, we got enough.
all right. Chair, take the motion.
Yes, sir, I make a motion that we approve the resolution of the total, millage-
38.501 for the unincorporated.
unincorporated area of Liberty County.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, we approve recommendation. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Motion passes.
Motion passes.
I got mine up.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now I have the 2019 tax levy resolution for the incorporated combined other cities, all of the cities other than City of Hinesville. To pay the expense of administration of county government, to pay principal and interest on debt, to build and repair public buildings and bridges, to pay the expense of courts, the maintenance and support of prisoners, to pay sheriffs, coroner, and for litigation, to build and maintain a system of county roads, for public health purposes and for the collection and preservation of public records and vital statistics, to provide for payments of old age assistance to aged persons in need, and for payment of assistance to needy blind and to dependent children and other welfare benefits consistent with the laws as created by the General Assembly, to provide for fire protection of forest lands and for the further conservation of natural resources, to provide medical and other care and hospitalization for the indigent sick, to acquire, improve, and maintain public facilities, to provide for workers' compensation and retirement or pension funds for officers and employees, to provide reasonable reserve for public improvements. The mill rate for all above is 16.3. For the school maintenance, support, and lunch program, 16.358. For the hospital authority, 3.843. For the industrial authority, 2.0. The mill rate for all the above purpose, 38.501. It is ordered that the above and foregoing levy for the year 2020 in the amount of 38.501 mills be spread upon the minutes of the board and be published as required by law this 19th day of November 2020.
Chair, entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
A second motion. I guess let's give them both credit for the second, Commissioner Bowens and Commissioner Stevens. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. All right. Resolution passes.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the last one, the 2020 tax levy resolution for the Incorporated City of Hinesville to pay the expense of administration of county government, to pay principal and interest on debt, to build and repair public buildings and bridges, to pay the expense of courts, the maintenance and support of prisoners, and to pay sheriffs, coroners, and for litigation, to build and maintain a system of county roads, for public health purposes and for the collection and preservation of public records and vital statistics, to provide for payments of old age assistance to aged persons in need, for payment of assistance to needy blind, and to dependent children and other welfare benefits consistent with the laws as created by the General Assembly, to provide for fire protection of forest lands and for the further conservation of natural resources, to provide medical care and other care and hospitalization for the indigent sick, to acquire, improve, and maintain public facilities, to provide for workers' compensation and retirement or pension funds for officers and employees, to provide reasonable reserve for public improvements. The mill rate for all above, 14.8. For school maintenance, support, and lunch program, 16.358. The hospital authority, 3.843. Industrial authority, 2.0. The total mill rate for all above purpose, 37.001. It is ordered that the above and foregoing levy for the year 2020 in the amount of 37.001 mills be spread upon the minutes of the board and be published as required by law this 19th day of November 2020.
City of Hinesville. All right. Chair, entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Walden. Second by Commissioner Bowden. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. Motion passes. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
hope y'all can hear me because that's a lot of background noise that I've been listening to. And I just want to commend the staff. Kim, y'all did an excellent job. And we went through COVID and we're still dealing with it. The county had its feet to the fire, if you want to say. And I appreciate what everybody's done. Even though our population is continuing to increase, we're still going to have to be looking at avenues to generate more revenue. Commissioner Stevens brought up something that he and I have talked about, and that's this Freeport tax. I know that it's important to keep our jobs here in this community, and I'd like to do that, but I think we really do need to look at the some type of restructuring on that, especially when we start filling up our Trayport East, Trayport West, and of course our industrial park out on 196 on Airport Road. So again, Kim, thank you for what you've done. Joey, the rest of the staff there, I commend you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. Commissioners, I failed to ask you to be able to amend the agenda. We need to work in Mr. Jimmy Martin on our agenda. Can we, please, ma'am, please, sir, allow him to take the, let's see, Kim, you going to do finance?
Go right into the finance report.
All right. And then engineer, and then we'll bring Mr. Martin. Is that right? I guess I need a motion, Mr. Brown?
We do, and one more note, Mr. Chairman, the, under new business, item D won't be needed, and that's a lease on the excavator.
So we'll trade off, we'll add one and,
To do that, yes.
okay. All right, Mr. Martin will be 6C, then we won't have 7F.
We won't need to borrow those.
All right,
What about C? Will C Linda Martin be here?
I was waiting to see if she comes, Mr.
Yes.
Commissioner.
I was just curious, I was,
I don't know.
yeah.
I just noticed she wasn't here either.
Yeah. She was invited to come and report.
I just saw it down
All
here.
right. Thank you, sir. Yeah. All right. Chair, entertain a motion to amend the agenda that way?
Yes, sir.
So
Make a
moved.
motion.
Second? Second. All in favor? All right, Mr. Martin, you'll be 6C, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wallace. You own it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, everyone should have gotten your October financials. We finished closing the month of October, and we're looking real good for this time of year. We've achieved about 23% of our budgeted revenues, and we are exhausted about 32% of our budgeted expenditures. We are right below target for spending. Considering all that we've had to do with the COVID and everything, that's fantastic. Your fund balance, your undesignated, unreserved fund balance at the end of October is approximately 4.4 months' worth of operational expenditures. 1 year ago this time, you were at 3.5 months, so we're actually doing a little bit better than we were a year ago this time. There are a couple of departments that are running slightly ahead of schedule. The first one I'll mention is elections, as I've discussed before, with everything that they've been challenged with, all the new requirements that came down from the state that they had to implement for COVID needs and for the recount and for this runoff. They most likely will run out of money before the end of the fiscal year. We'll continue to track that, but they are definitely running ahead of schedule.
And for the public, we call those unfunded mandates.
Unfunded mandates.
Things that are mandated by the state, but no money follows them.
That's right.
The
Yes.
payment, the coverage from that comes out of your county's pockets.
The state loves doing that.
But you have no choice.
Yes. Risk management, that's a department that's always on the radar because we make a lump sum payment once a year for the county liability insurance that covers everything. So that department is skewed for the rest of the year, but you won't see much more hit that budget. So that's not unusual. The same with your Coastal Georgia Regional Development dues. We sent every bit of that at one time, so you won't see anything else hit that budget, but that's why it looks like it's running ahead of schedule. Superior Court, again, we made a one-time lump sum payment for the law clerk expenses, so it'll take a few months for that to come back in line, but that's all that's gonna hit. Your circuit-wide public defender, we're required to send a payment a month in advance, so that's always 1 month in advance, so it always looks like it's running a little over, but they're fine because at the end of the year, they fall right back in line. Emergency management, there was a purchase of a F-150, so that's kind of skewed that budget for the month. After a month or two, it'll come back in line. It was budgeted, but as a capital purchase, you know, that's a lump sum payment in 1 month, so it kind of skews things. Same thing with the road department. The purchase of the Freightliner and the excavator with the Star Truck trailer. Those were two significant purchases that happened in September, I believe. So that budget's going to be skewed for a few months, but in all other areas. Same thing with building and licensing. Another vehicle was purchased in that as well. Another F-150. So again, anytime you have a lump sum purchase of like $30,000 in that month, it's going to take a couple months for that department to fall back in line, but that's not unexpected. We knew it, we budgeted for it, and we'll just continue to watch that. The census coordinator, we did not anticipate them extending the census back when we created this budget, so we didn't have a budget for the census coordinator. But she did work a little extra, and so those are the expenses that you see there. At the end of the year, you will probably come back and amend your budget once we see where all the other departments, including elections, falls out. Typically, in any given year, there's enough savings in some other departments that we can shift and cover those shortfalls or those overages in certain departments. And then your other financing uses, that is where we actually transferred over some money into SPLOST to help shore up the building of that fire station. There was about a $600,000 loan that we needed because you did not have enough SPLOST money in this particular sales tax. But all in all, your general fund looks very good for this time of year. These are the lean months. October, November, December, those are very lean months where you live on your fund balance for all practical purposes. Solid waste is operating at a small net income of about $56,000. Your other special revenues are all running at their projected rate, with the exception of 911. 911 had to make a lump sum payment for the annual maintenance to Motorola, but that will fall back in line as well. It's running just slightly ahead of schedule. And your sales tax, it's looking great. If you look at the collections for the month of October, we received $809,787. So for the entire program, we are now ahead of schedule by $692,000.
Happy dance, happy dance, happy dance.
Yeah, it's really looking good, really looking good. That's all I have, unless somebody has any specific questions for me.
Commissioner McLeod.
Good job.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you so much.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming. All right, Mr. Long.
Good evening. I'll try to be brief with what I have tonight. I know I have a long report that you have in front of you. I'll try to, there's a lot of things on it that are really kind of small. I may skip over a few things. If I skip over something you'd like me to talk about, please let me know. The East End Fire Station is pretty much complete. They've got a few things in the building, but as far as site work goes, we're good with that one. Looks good out there. Got all the asphalt working out, looking good. Melvin Lane, Taylor's Creek Construction is a contractor on that site. The asphalt went down yesterday. They were about 10 tons under budget. We still have a little bit of asphalt to put out on Homestown Loop Road, so by the time we're all said and done, we ought to hit pretty even on the asphalt, so that project will be finished. One thing about it, though, is we had a lot of dirt that we had to come in and out to keep that site passable during all this rain. Talked to Gary Gillard about that quite a bit, about the dirt road coming in and going, and we tried to save some money on some items and did a pretty good job of trying to keep it in check, but we did run over about $4,500. We do have a change order request of $4,573.63 that I would like the commissioners to approve, so we can go ahead and compensate them for the dirt that we've had to do back and forth on that. And it gives them a 30-day extension on the time to finish the job too, which actually runs out tomorrow. But for all practical purposes, they're done. But we would recommend the approval of the change order for $4,573.63.
Let's see. Somebody got to step in for,
Will that be coming out of his SPOS?
Ma'am?
That change order will be coming out of his SPOS? He
Yes, ma'am.
hadn't talked to me about it. I'm sure he'd want it.
Yes, ma'am, he did. He said, he gave me approval on it, but we do need the commissioner's approval.
How much was it for?
$4,573.
I'll second it.
it's not,
You can get it from,
he can pay you back. All right.
make a motion.
Yeah.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion that, trying to help Commissioner get it out?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I was gonna ask Trent, are they gonna paint the lines on that road?
Ask me that again?
Gonna paint the lines on the road.
Normally, we don't on short roads like this, but we can if we need to. We can. I mean, we'd be glad to do that.
Well, you let Commissioner Gillett, they could call on that.
What's the cost gonna be on it?
It's gonna end up being a day rate. So I'd have to get what that price is and send it back, get it out, back out to you guys. We didn't stripe like, when we, did Turning Point up the street, a little short road like that, we didn't stripe.
Stripe, you
But
mean you didn't put a center line?
Yes,
We
ma'am,
didn't
all we
put-
do, we have curb and gutter on it, So all you would have is a center line stripe, just a double yellow line.
So you won't have an edge.
You won't have an edge line. There's no reason for an edge.
Okay, got it.
Well, Trent, wasn't there a fire hydrant on that street?
Yes, sir. We did relocate a fire hydrant on that street.
Well, what I'm wondering then, are you gonna mark that in the center lane?
You want
Would be marked
one of the
with
blue RPMs? We can get the blue RPMs, because that's how you mark them, is a little blue reflective.
Right.
They're called raised pavement markings, RPMs. We can get a little, blue
I'm just-
RPM to put out there.
I didn't notice if they was on the other road either over there.
No, sir. But we can go
I mean,
back.
I'm
and
not-
get those are
I'm
pretty
not gonna
inexpensive.
get in Commissioner Gillard's
Yeah, that's what I
business,
say,
but
y'all.
I think that
Yeah.
you got a brand new road, just we'll put some markers on it before we
Well, Mr. Chairman, they always ride together
call it
anyway.
quit.
He'll discuss it with him.
Yes, sir. I'll get with him and we'll get that back to you.
Did we vote, Mr. Brown?
Haven't,
Okay.
Mr. You voted.
Okay, all right. All right.
Ready for me to move on?
Yes, sir.
All right, Yeoman's Road is out on the streets. The bid date for it is December 1st at 2 o'clock here in this room. And we've had several people pick up on that already.
How many? About,
Oh, you had to ask me. I knew there were so many, I knew there were several, but I don't know exactly how many. So we should have some good response.
Good, we're good.
okay.
Need some.
Let's see how close they gonna come with it.
Yes, sir. We'll see.
If not, I got to go talk to the chairman again.
You don't. No, you don't.
Yes, sir. All right, Third Street, Sykes Brothers is the contractor on that job. The asphalt's down. They've got some dressing up to do along the ditches, and they got some drainage to do along Jericho Road. And, they're waiting on some pipe to be delivered to do that. We've been on them, and hopefully we're gonna get that done in the next couple of days and have that project finished. Now, we do have, a request from the road superintendent, where this project discharges down Jericho Drive. It discharges in a ditch that runs between a couple of residents that's pretty tight, and it's hard for him to get in there and maintain that ditch. And there are several little pipes coming from down drains and things like that in that area that's just, it's hard for him to maintain. And what he's asked us to do is to get a price to do something to improve that area so that it would reduce his need for maintenance through there. We originally looked at trying to pipe it, but that was gonna be very difficult and very expensive. We got a couple of prices, $40,000 and $38,000 to do that. We felt that was a little bit more for, the return on our value for that was not very well, or very good. We looked at possibly doing a concrete liner on the ditch, which would help the water to get through. We have a price on that of basically $27,000, and what we'll be doing is bringing that back to you guys. I would like to bring it back at the regular meeting if I could in December. We also looked at a DOT pavement marking list. We put this list together about 2 years ago. The department is gonna do a big pavement marking and sign rehabilitation program, and we had several roads that were on that list. DOT contacted us, and they were trying to get their stuff together to put that out for bid, and we provided assistance to them as far as links and signs and some of the things that we saw that was wrong with that road. And hopefully that's gonna go out for bid soon. Now, this is being let by the department and not by Liberty County, and it'll be controlled by the department, not by Liberty County. We'll probably have to go out there and do a little bit of cleaning of the edges of our roads from the road department. But so just as that goes, we'll be in contact with the department and their project manager so that we can kind of have a little bit of control. And if you guys have questions when it's going on, I'll be able to answer your questions.
That's in unincorporated Liberty County or Liberty County wide?
Well, it's going to be we have specific projects. It's going to be district-wide
Okay,
for them.
okay,
So they're going to be striping more than just unincorporated Liberty County or in municipalities within the district. So it's a district package that they're putting out.
okay. Okay. You've got a copy of that packet?
No, sir, it's not out yet.
Not out yet.
So, as soon as it comes out, I'll see if I can't get a copy.
Thank you, sir.
Let you know. We did look at some right-of-way issues on Max Welton Road. You know, the roadway kind of gets out of the right-of-way down there around the curve. And we're looking at some things that we can do to kind of bring it back within the right-of-way. Old Gun Road had some drainage issues on it. We're looking at some possible easements for Old Gun Road, Twin Rivers Road. We have a drainage from our paved road that goes out to the marsh, and the edge of the marsh is kind of giving way, and so the end of our pipes keep falling off of it, so we're trying to look to see what we can do to fix that up. It's also hurting the neighbor's seawall, so we're trying to make sure that our pipe work is not damaging our neighbors. Do want to talk about, let's skip down to the solid waste convenience centers. We did prepare some cost estimates for the improvements to several of the solid waste convenience centers. We do have plats for these, and I have them on a flash drive if you want to look at them, but the Culbertson, the consultant for solid waste, is looking at these and making some recommendations, and if I'm not mistaken, Joey, we're talking more about these items in the mid-month meeting in December. All right?
That's correct. And so, what he's presenting is a revamped fee schedule, as y'all are aware, Dr. John Culbertson will be. And at that time, he'll have a factor built in for these improvements to the convenience centers that you can consider or not consider.
Okay, Smiley Loop Road, Commissioner Stevens and I met that on Smiley Loop Road. That road, the pavement is actually in pretty decent shape. You know, it's got some things that may need in the future, but it's not in bad shape. The ditches are not in bad shape. So it would be acceptable to maintain some of that. Now there's a section that is at the end that's between the two paved roads, which is gravel, which really, you know, it needs a little bit of work. But, you know, Commissioner Stevens would like to at least look at the paved portions of that.
A portion of it, yeah.
Take over for maintenance. So, I mean, if you guys have any questions for that for me or Commissioner Stevens.
What does it take for us to go ahead and start that process?
Well, what would have to do is just, you guys would have to formally accept that road for maintenance.
Okay. You want,
Because it's already, the final plat already has the dedicated for public and private use.
right,
And, you know, all the bonds or anything that were on it, because that was put in place back in the late 90s, have expired. We have no ways to really go back and get any of those.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
would you want to go ahead and accept that one on the behalf of Mr. Long, County Engineer recommendation?
Let's see, remind me what our normal, you talking about the paved portion?
Yes, sir, just the paved portions, not the, and what I could do, if you'd like, I could bring you back a plat of the areas that we're doing.
Let's do that.
And then what I can do is I can bring that back to you at the regular meeting
Okay,
in December.
let's do that.
That way you have a formal document
There you go.
to approve.
Let's try to be
and we
consistent.
can
Mr.
record
Okay.
that for you.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Mr. Long, did you intend to skip Stevens Road? You keep,
Well, I'll go ahead and talk about Stevens Road. My mind was getting down to the big items on the bottom.
Okay.
Stevens Road, there was a gentleman that had some drainage issues off to the right side of Stevens Road. And he was concerned that the maintenance of the roadside ditch was causing the drainage issues on his property, and actually, it was not. The drainage issues were pretty good distance away from the edge of the right-of-way, and were not impacted by the county roadside ditches at all.
well, since then, I've gone back out and I've had them to pull up a pipe, I think about a 40-foot ADS pipe that was out there that was not needed, that was clogged up, so
Right.
that's gonna help push that water further down that road, we hope, also.
Yes, sir. That's right. So, okay, we're good?
Good.
All right, transfer station tipping floor. The contractor for that is Osborne Contracting Services. We had our pre-construction conference this month. Got out there and looked at the floor and got everything set up. All the materials have been ordered. We are planning on doing that work the weekend of December 4th. So Friday, the tipping station will be closed down, and we'll turn it over to the contractor, and then we're supposed to have the tipping floor back Monday morning. Excuse me.
Back up on that now, Trent. Okay, when you do that box covered, and you're gonna do half of it?
Are you already moving to the box culvert? Or you want me,
Oh, you still on the other, I'm
still
sorry.
on tipping floor?
I'm trying to move your hurry and get you out the way.
Oh, okay, well, let's move on to the box culvert now. All right, so the box culvert, yes, sir, what we'll do is we'll do half of the box culvert at a time.
Okay,
So, that's my intent. The box will be a little longer than it is right now. What we'll end up having to do is do a little bit. We have enough room that we'll move to one side and the shoulder, have a little bit of a guardrail, and we'll have to kind of narrow folks down while they're building one side of it. And then, when that side is complete, we'll move people over to the new side and then build the other half.
I mean, I guess my concern is how are you going to be able to control traffic on that road at night? Would it be because you won't be able to get it all in one day, will you?
Oh, no, sir.
That's
This
my-
will take several months.
Yeah, so
for
that's
this
what
to
I'm
get done,
concerned
'cause
now.
it'll
You're
be-
gonna
it's
have
a cast in place. It's not precast. So what you end up doing is traffic control, not unlike what you see on interstates or different things like that. There will be lots and lots and lots of barrels and cones, and there'll be a lot of traffic control devices to guide you in the direction that we're gonna go. Now, what we'll do is we will pave the shoulder, and we'll make paving improvements so that we can move everybody over.
Okay, that's,
So, we're not gonna do it all on the existing asphalt. So, when you do this, we'll have a long section on, just say if you're going toward the coast, most likely we would do the right side first. So we would pave a strip along the left side of the road, build things up. We'll probably have a little bit of guardrail right there at the edge of the culvert. Move the traffic over a little bit, and then when it gets done, we'll flip it and do it the other side.
okay.
Now, I may have misspoken there. We may want to do it just exactly the opposite, do the right side because,
Right.
the upstream side is the side that has the broken wing wall on it.
Okay, all right.
But we do the same thing. When you do the other side, you pave a section on the other side, and when we're done, you remove some of the asphalt.
Okay, that's what I was concerned about, the traffic. The
Does that
movement
make
of the
sense?
flow of the traffic.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure we keep traffic flowing. Road Department site survey, we got surveys together, and I think we've already sent that over to the architect to kind of start looking at some things for the road department. Mount Olivet Church Road, we took bids on Mount Olivet Church Road Tuesday. I put a copy of the bid tabulation and the recommendation letter on your desk today. You'll see we had several proposals. The low bidder was Sykes Brothers at a bid of $137,113.80. Our budget for the construction side of the house was $142,000 plus a 10% contingency on top of that. So we're well within our budget. Commissioner Bowen, haven't looked up, and he's got Commissioner Gillard's sign in front of him. But he has the money to do this, and I think he's anxious to try to go ahead and award this contract. If you guys would like to award to
It's ready for,
Sykes Brothers.
I mean, it's ready for project to be started as soon as if we vote on it.
Yes, sir.
I did have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
The time frame. How are we gonna hold accountability as far as time frame if we award this to a contractor?
Yes, sir.
How much time do they have?
We-
Plus, on the routes on that road, are they gonna be able to get those routes out?
Yes, sir.
Or, I mean, they gonna
So what we'll
We did a
do,
little work a couple, 3 years ago, and, you know, the roots popped right back up. But I don't know if they got the roots first time.
well, what we're planning on doing on this one is, cutting the root mass. Root mass, we're gonna dig down beside the road in the areas where the mid roots are, about 18 to 24 inches with a trencher and backfill it with, stone,
Rock,
so that we can cut those roots off.
pack it, and,
Yes, sir, repack it.
okay.
So we gave a reasonable amount of time for the, project
Okay.
in the contract, and we do
I know
have,
Third Street has been a problem over there, this, that, and the other, and it's
Yes, sir.
got to be quite a project.
yes, sir.
Now,
Well, and you know,
work over there, but they'll get it straightened out.
I agree. And you know, that Sykes Brothers has historically been a really good contractor for us, and,
Yeah.
yes, sir, we've had some, slow performance here lately, but I
Need a
think we
motion.
can get it. I think we'll be able to get them to do the right thing.
You need a motion now?
Yes, sir, Will.
You entertain a motion, I'll make a motion, we approve the low bid for Sykes Brothers to go ahead with this project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, we approve the bid as presented, offered by Sykes Brothers, 137, 11380,
Mr. Bolton,
under budget.
Mr.
Yes, sir, Mr.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I was just going to remind Commissioner Bowen that he'll probably get to see it done, but he probably won't be around up there when it gets done, and we'll try to do the best we can, but,
Thanks for that vote of confidence, Mr. Walden. I know we're still in good hands, you and Justin sitting up.
we'll make sure them boys do a good job for you.
Okay, appreciate that.
All in favor, raise your hand. All right, motion passes. Yes, sir.
Only thing left to have on my agenda is Pioneer Road. The construction plans are pretty much finished, as well as the bid documents. I'm hoping that I can get it to the paper by noon tomorrow, and we may end up starting advertising Wednesday. If
Okay.
not, it'll be the following Wednesday, and we'll be opening first part of January.
January, all right.
How long of a road is that?
Maybe-
Approximately.
You had to ask me,
Maybe a
it's
half.
less than 2,000 feet.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
That's District 3?
And one thing we're gonna do on it is, it's got, the cracking in that road is not necessarily just alligator cracking like you're thinking. It's big cracks with big areas. We've used in some areas what they call an open graded interface asphalt layer. We call it OGI. And you ride on it a lot on the interstates because they put it as a finished surface on the interstates. So when you're driving down the road, you don't get all the mist because it's just got the water goes in it and then drains down through it. Well, that same product does a really good job of keeping the reflective cracking in the asphalt from coming back through. So that road needs a little bit of leveler course, so instead of using typical leveling course, we're going to use the OGI mix so that cracking won't come back up. And that road hadn't been overlaid or anything done to it in a really, really, really long time.
yeah, it's been a
So I
while.
expect this to last a long time.
All right, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Jim, I'm sorry, got one other question. Mr. Long, when we get a chance, take a look at, it's a project that we did off of Mystic Lane.
Yes, sir.
It's been, ever since that road was paved. There's a discharge going out there on Mr. Cummings and Bishop Brown's property. And it's dumping all of that trash out there on their property.
So what's his name again?
Mystic Lane,
The property owner.
Nathaniel Cummings. He reminded me about it again the other day. We looked at it,
Is that off of Robinson Circle?
Robertson Circle.
Yes, sir, I understand, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's
and
where
we-
that discharges back in the woods.
Right. I don't
Yes, sir,
know.
it does. For some reason, there's a lot of pollutants that collect.
Right. Oh.
And, you know, the road department's been in there several times and cleaned it up.
Mhm.
So, I'll get with Clinton and take a look at that again.
I don't know if we could put some kind of catch basket. I don't know. It's just a
They make a product that we could do. We would have to replace the catch basin and put a sump in it. It's called a snout. And basically what it is like a little hood over the pipe, and it makes a whole water in the catch basin. So the stormwater goes in and goes under the snout and out. All the floating trash stays on top. But the problem with that is it becomes a real maintenance problem. And if they're, they would have to go over on a very regular basis to clean out that catch basin. So, there's a pretty high level of maintenance on that. So I'll look at it with Clinton.
Because we're gonna have to
Get
do
with you
one
and
of the,
Mr. Brown on what's gonna be the best way to handle that.
so we're gonna have to do one of the two. Either it's gonna have to be the Liberty County Maintenance or Mr. Cummins and them going out there maintaining the trash that's coming off of the road themselves.
Yes, sir.
And I don't want them to be doing that.
No, I understand. But just kind of the product, I wanted you to know kind of what the
Right.
pros and the cons are of it.
Yeah.
But I'll get with you and Mr. Wells and Mr. Brown, and we'll try to.
All right,
All right?
y'all,
All right.
All right, thanks, sir.
thank you, sir. Mr. Martin?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
before Mr. Long leaves, Mr. Stevens had asked me to look at a drainage structure that drains from Spencer Golden to Tyson Road, from Tyson Road to the Goshen Canal. And I met with the landowner the other day, and he's open for suggestions, but the ditch is growed up from Highway 84 to the canal, so we need to get with the DOT. I guess Trent can do that and get them to clean the ditches from Spencer Golden Road to Tyson Road, and then from Tyson Road all the way to that outfall pipe that goes into the canal. It's backing up water all the way up Tyson Road into those people's yards. So it's dry now, but when it rains, those
It backs up.
3 homes up in there are flooding.
Yes, sir. I'll be glad to go take a look at that.
Okay.
Marion, you know where it's at?
Yeah, right, yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
All right, okay, you know it, all right.
Thank you, sir.
Just call me on your way going home so you won't have to charge me.
Good evening.
Send my bill.
Evening.
As you see on the board, that is a guide for our plans for our spring programs, 2021. Unusual that I would be here to discuss that with you guys, what is normally a foregone conclusion, but as we all know, nothing is normal during these times. First of all, I'd like to take just a quick moment to review where we're at right now. We have use of walking trails and passive use of green space at parks available to citizens of the county. Limited use of other outdoor facilities like baseball, softball fields, football, soccer fields, basically under the supervision of our staff. When they do that, requires a reservation and approval in advance for groups to be able to use them under a certain criteria that we developed at a meeting earlier this year and you guys signed off on. All indoor facilities are closed. No organized programs or activities are taking place at this time. So we have very high hopes that when this time comes around that we will be able to offer spring programs to our residents as we normally do. As you see on the guide, registration for some of those programs could begin in early January. And of course, we understand that will all depend on what the situation is at that time. What I would hope to do is perhaps at the mid-month meeting in December, come before you gentlemen again and ladies and perhaps again agree that we can move forward with these plans. We have, in talking with counterparts who have run programs during the pandemic and this trying time, and looking at the guidelines that are set forth by national organizations, governing organizations, and bodies for different activities, we do have a plan as to how we could conduct these activities, feeling as if that would be as safely as we could do it. Basically, that would entail doing things on as small a scale as we possibly could. Whereas we would normally have, say, a coaches meeting with all the coaches for, let's say, soccer, since it's a spring activity, could be as many as 30 or 40 individuals in the room. We would divide that into groups and have much smaller groups attend so that we could achieve the social distancing that is needed with a group that size. In soccer also, and other sports, we have an evaluation at the beginning of each sport to give the coaches an opportunity to see what skills the players have, decide how they would like to set their team up, and which players they'd like to have on their team. We would forego that this year. And because normally that brings a very large crowd of hundreds out onto the fields at one time. So we would adopt other measures, look at records of previous skill levels and all-star participation and various other factors, and use that to split the teams up rather than having an evaluation. Of course, social distancing and masking when needed would be emphasized at every turn. We would stagger game and practice times so as to have as few people as possible in the park, on the field at the same time. We would avoid personal contact. After the game, handshake is a pretty traditional thing. Even before we suspended activities, we stopped that temporarily. So things like that, high fives between players, we would ask that not be done. We would run a very limited concession that would involve only those items that could be sold prepackaged so that we wouldn't have an issue there. And of course, encourage and require kids to bring their own water bottle. No sharing of any personal equipment, of course, would be allowed. But that's just a general description of the things that we would do, the measures we would take in order to try and have these programs. As I said, we have high hopes to have these programs because, for one, that would mean that the situation has gotten better. But of course, we want to be able to provide these programs for our community.
As I hear you explain that, I really do appreciate that approach. I'm hearing Commissioner Thrift in my ear over here. I would like for us to do everything possible to allow activities with our children and in our parks and playgrounds, but yet maintaining as much of a safe environment as we can. So if downsizing is the answer, then let it be so. Let it be so. While we do give our citizens, our young people, the opportunity to have some opportunity to go outside and run and jump and play, being as safe as we can keep them.
Yes, sir.
That's a much better answer than just slamming the door and saying no.
Agree.
Yeah, and listen, and we'll be realistic. If we should run into an issue, then we'll adjust at that time.
Yes, sir.
And parents just have to be aware of that,
Understood.
aware of that,
Agree.
But at least I'm happy to hear you explain that you're going to try to find a way so that those young people can have some opportunity to participate in spring sports.
I feel like we would take whatever measures we felt were necessary and feasible in order to provide the program.
Right. And Mr. Chair, I just, for the record, I just want to tell Mr. Martin, I appreciate everything you've done, from the past, and I know we worked well together with these projects with the youth. And, these programs deal with the health and wellness of our youth. And technically, if you look up the definition of that stands for welfare. So I want to just tell you, I thank you for protecting, the youth, the welfare of our youth, and that means a lot to me. Yeah. So when people use the word welfare, I just want them to really know the definition of welfare whenever they present it to us. So I want to just tell you thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Commissioner Frazier, and
Welcome.
you guys are a big part of that. So, you provide the support and everything we need in order to be able to do that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can I piggyback on what he said? Stats, and I mentioned it in our COVID call, stats are showing that among our 15 to, I think, 24, 25 age groups, their emotional well-being is at risk.
Absolutely.
Much higher risk during this time. So anything we can do to give them an outlet while maintaining their safety, I think we should explore every opportunity to do that.
Yes, sir. And again, just a preview of those plans. I know it depends on what, conditions are at that time. So, we'd again like to come back to you guys in December perhaps discuss, a little more finality towards moving to that. There are a number of things that have to be done in advance to get everything in place for that. So, that's the reason I came tonight, just to kind of get that ball rolling, so to speak.
Mr. Chairman, are we looking at guidelines or something to open the parks back up and the playgrounds?
As of right now, they are closed. Certainly could entertain that.
I didn't.
I would think that we would love to see you entertain that.
If possible.
Yeah, somebody may have the answer. That doesn't have to be you, maybe someone else who has discovered a way to do it, but,
Well, I don't know that anyone has. A lot of it depends on open use of parks, depends on individual responsibility.
because we don't have, right.
As we have stated, unfortunately, we
Right.
went through a period of time where they were reopened, closed them back down, and resorted to this limited access policy that we have now.
Yeah.
Believe me, we would love to not have them closed. It is somewhat of a nightmare.
Even if it could be like one day a week or something,
Well, I don't, Mr. Chairman, not necessarily if we don't think we're ready to open up the basketball courts where it's more one-on-one,
Right.
more that they can do.
Social distance.
Social distance. But the playgrounds, I mean, I assume
Swing
they're open
sets.
at school.
The schools,
let
facilities, as
them
far
out?
as I know, Commissioner Thrift, have never closed.
They've never closed. So the
They may have
kids
been
now that are in
closed, but-
school are going out to the playground.
There was nothing ever put in place, to my knowledge, to
Right.
stop anyone from using those facilities.
Right.
And effectively, what's happened when we close our basketball courts, they would go to the courts at the schools. As
So
I'm
I
told.
see most time at parks, I would see like families or, that would be at the park and if they touch the swing or touch the bars, I don't know that we can
Then be-
control that.
yeah.
So there's
I
just no
think
way
at
to,
the,
obviously, sure.
I think at the Board of Education, there was someone there to sanitize it,
Oh, my.
In between
in
usage.
between.
Wow.
But with the rec,
Yeah.
I mean, will the parents who take their children out, will they be responsible to do that?
Well, probably not, but I don't know. I don't know, some of the COVID guidelines is not the hands or wearing gloves. So I don't know how it's transferring other than wear your mask, wash your hands. That's basically what they've been telling us. I don't know if there's
the
an
aerosols,
answer to it or if you want to look and see what other counties are doing. but
Is there
I
still
think we
limited access on hand sanitizer? I mean,
Most people now are using hand. I mean,
right, and
I
that's
mean,
what I
it's
was
kind of an
saying, like,
everyday life, like
right,
a mask.
right. I mean, I know initially whenever we shut down a lot of that stuff, it was because, I mean, hand
was.
sanitizer was
Oh, yeah.
very limited,
Yeah.
or none at all. I mean, can we address, looking back at, putting the little stations out there,
Well,
possibly?
yeah, I think you see that we have interests. So if you'll just explore it, no pressure. Listen, we don't want Liberty County to be a spike.
No, sir.
I promise you we don't.
Yeah, gotcha.
I promise you we don't.
I would add that, the policy that we have now was the best policy we could come up with under the former situation,
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
when there was, a lot of undesirable activities going on those facilities. So that was the reason that we came with this one. I don't know that there is an in-between. Either it's open and full use or closed. The only other in-between I could think of would be someone there monitoring the use of those courts at all times and policing the rules. I don't think that's a good situation.
Yeah.
I certainly
I'm
don't.
kind of like Commissioner Thrift. I don't see the basketball courts opening up.
See the,
But I do see maybe it's a playground.
I would love to see the playgrounds open,
Yeah.
and I know that many residents would love that too, and
Yeah.
some of them decide to use them even though they're closed.
Yeah. But let's try to make it legal.
I agree. I would be in favor of that tonight. if I was
Yeah.
going.
If you just will you just come back to us, sir, with, think that over a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Maybe talk to your rec board,
Yes, sir.
and then just report back to us if you will.
Okay. Definitely by mid-December,
That'd be fine, sir.
that'd be okay?
Fine, sir.
Get those kids
We're just gonna reserve you a seat up here.
Can I get on the agenda for the mid-December meeting? We'll see.
One more thing, I really think, the other thing Mr. Martin was coming back for tonight, and we may have already answered that, was the question about basketball season. That's what originally generated the
Yeah,
conversation.
it did, it did.
Talk about that.
And yes, sir, and I guess that really, you know, we have had sort of taken for granted that with all other facilities closed and all indoor facilities closed, there really was no chance of playing basketball. Outdoor facilities, outdoor basketball courts even being used. And with it being an indoor program, it would be a whole different set of challenges for sure. We did speak, you know, we talked with the Board of Education. They won't give us any guarantee for use of facilities. It would all be kind of like with you guys. I mean, based on the conditions at the time and what was going on. It would require a very stringent set of guidelines in terms of disinfecting and cleaning each day, before and after. That would be quite a challenge.
Listen, I read, and we're gonna, not trying to hold up everything. I read in the paper, the plans that Long County is putting into place to host their basketball games. Did you read those?
High school, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is Bradwell and Liberty gonna do the same kind of,
I'm sorry, but I don't know.
any idea, yeah?
know if they're-
But they were doing social distancing and sanitizing and only so many people could come in the gym, all those kind of things. Here's my point. So if there's a way to design a program where we could have basketball and yet maintain, you know, some safety, a high measure of safety,
Yes, sir.
then I think we should entertain that. But now, I'm not sure what that will do to your staffing and your staffing requirements, so that's something you have to come back with.
I could tell you that we wouldn't have the staff to conduct both programs at the
Yeah.
same time. But that's the way those programs are staggered throughout the year for that very reason.
I think a little bit challenge here too is versus a high school gymnasium with seats on both sides, you're talking about
Yeah.
a Schumann Center where you don't have near the bleacher capacity that a high school gymnasium does.
And the spectator issue being a very, very interesting issue, how do you control that?
Yeah.
In other words,
Yeah.
do you tell each player they can
Yeah.
only have one parent come to the games in order to control the number of people in the gym? And basically, if you did that, you would be reaching about the number that is required of 50 or no more than 50, you know, inside that facility at one time, gathered in a place. And it seems that it would be very difficult to tell every player you can only bring one person with you when there are siblings and parents and many others involved, you know, that want to be there. But that's just one of the many issues.
Come back to us.
Chairman,
And listen, once again, we're not insisting.
Right.
We're just asking you to explore it for us.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, yes, sir.
look at me. Remember now, that's a new program here.
Yeah.
Sorry I missed that, Commissioner Stevens? Oh, never
You
mind.
catch it later.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yes, sir. Well, we will certainly march on with plans for spring programs for sure. And
So would parents want their kid to participate if only one parent could come, or they'd rather not have it at all? That's choices we got to make now.
Yeah.
So we can't have it all, you know?
So what we'll do for mid-month though is, without marching with the spring program, you're gonna come back with some recommendations on how they would be conducted. and we'll make-
Yes, sir, yeah.
or, I'm sorry, for spring programs?
That's what you'll come back mid-month for.
Okay.
Yeah, because, you know, hearing what you said, it's too late for basketball now.
It would be difficult to get it
Right,
going.
I understand.
And then I know there's a couple AAU basketball programs that are starting as well
Are they?
right now.
Yeah. So, good, so let's put this together so that it works, okay, and bring that back to us, all right.
Okay, thank
We're
you.
with
very
you,
much.
sir. Thank you again, sir, for your efforts, appreciate you. All right. Resolution Freeport e-commerce. Mr. Davis.
Sir, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Oh,
That's some good news, which I'm sure everyone's familiar with. But as you know, at the November 3rd election, the voters of Liberty County overwhelmingly approved expansion of our Freeport exemption. by almost 70%. I think it was 67.84% of the voters of Liberty County approved the expansion. And so the resolution before you tonight, much like with the T-Splost, is simply publishing the results of the election and then authorizing the chairman and the county administrator to do what's necessary to implement the exemption. And as presently written, the exemption is simply an expansion of that existing Freeport exemption, which we have now in the county, which is 100%, to also include the stock and inventory of fulfillment centers, or commonly called as e-commerce centers. I think as everyone knows, Liberty County for years and years has exempted 3 categories of business personal property that are recognized by statute. Several years ago, the Georgia legislature, recognizing the need to compete with other states with respect to these large employers, the fulfillment centers, identified a 4th category of business personal property for exemption. It authorized local governments to do that, but only if the voters approved it, which yours did, ours did. So the county is free to exempt the stock and trade of these fulfillment centers now, and hopefully allow the industrial authority to compete with neighboring counties and states in the recruitment of these industries. I think as you folks learned from our, I guess, last meetings, when this resolution was first adopted, I think last year, or earlier this year, the industrial authority is really at a huge competitive disadvantage with the recruitment of these industries. And without this exemption, the authority's position is that they will be essentially unable to compete. So we would not be able to recruit these fulfillment centers to Liberty County without this exemption. So that was the very purpose of the referendum. The ballot itself mentioned that the purpose was to recruit and retain employment and to encourage economic development. And I think the voters understood exactly what the county was proposing and thankfully approved it. So now we're able to compete with neighboring states and counties in the recruitment of these fulfillment centers. But I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Were these numbers hand counted too?
What's that?
Were these numbers hand counted
Didn't have
too?
the hand count.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you folks know the hand, it wasn't technically a recount. It was an audit. So even though there might be a discrepancy in votes, unless it was some glaring mistake like in Floyd and some other counties where they simply failed to upload votes, the actual certified votes won't change.
Right.
So yes, but yes, as far as yes, everything, although these votes weren't audited, I should say. Only the presidential race was audited.
Go figure.
And the city.
But I think, like you folks, I have supreme confidence in our Board of Elections. And I should say, for anybody who hasn't stopped by and visited the board's offices and looked at their operations, I just want to give credit to the Board of Elections and the interim director, Ms. Walthour, for the outstanding job they did in connection with this election. There were a lot of challenges, as you folks know, from COVID to the recently introduced voting machines to huge voter turnout. Not simply absentee ballots, but just unprecedented voter turnout. And I think, like me, if you voted in person, you found it a very smooth and easy process, and I just wanted to compliment them.
Absolutely.
Especially when election workers are coming under such criticism these days.
Oh, my gosh.
Entirely undeserved, and I think everyone can have confidence that Liberty County's results were accurate and complete, and you can trust the job that our election workers are doing. So my compliments to them.
Absolutely.
All right. Mr. Davis, do me one favor.
Yes, sir.
Put this in user-friendly words to the general public about what e-commerce is. Because if you say e-commerce, if you say Freeport, some people may.
Yes, I think most people, commonly it's been referred to as e-commerce, but if you think of the large Amazon wish fulfillment centers or any large distribution center these days, they have basically their stock and trade that they keep and store in these facilities, and they ship them directly to users who order them remotely, either by email or telephone. So it's basically stock and trade that's stored in these facilities to be shipped directly back to consumers who order them remotely, usually through email. And as I say before, just until recently, there wasn't this category of business personal property that could be exempted. But I think Georgia, after losing out to many of these fulfillment centers, recognized the urgent need and authorized local governments the ability to exempt this newly created 4th category of business personal property so we could compete. And of course, that's what you folks did and what the voters authorized. And so that's simply what this resolution does as well. Recognizes the the referendum results and authorizes the expansion that we currently enjoy with our 3 classes of business professional property and extend that to this new 4th category of business personal.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Chair, entertain a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion and a second, we approve the resolution for e-commerce. Thank you for your work with that, sir, for
Yes, sir.
helping us with that. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. All right.
And my
Resolution passed.
congratulations to your governmental partner, the Industrial Authority, which you sit on,
Thank
Chairman
you,
Lovett,
sir.
because
Yeah.
I know they're very excited.
You
about
said the state of Georgia, Liberty kind of lost out on some
it.
opportunities.
And they are in the process, I think, of recruiting, or at least discussions with businesses that could very well benefit from this. So,
If you need me to be a little more personal, the other counties rubbed it in our face that we didn't have it. And then one of the other companies.
anyway, very, very good development.
That's not a good feeling.
No. Very positive development for the Liberty County.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm just going to check real quick, see if Commissioner Walden,
Oh.
you may have had to disengage, so, okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Holton,
Yep,
the Head Start Center,
come on down.
long time coming.
Waiting on you.
That's better. Yes, Head Start Center.
You were social distance back there. You could have taken off back there by yourself.
So the Head Start Center is up again. So we did, as you know, the last time that we brought this up, we were a very, very limited budget. And basically, we blew that budget pretty good. Just, doing whatever we could to save, on that project. But the Coastal Georgia Community Action Authority was able to find funding with the federal government and was able to expand that project and get it, and it's fully funded. So we took bids on that, and we had 4 bidders, but only 1 responsive bidder. And I'm happy to say that bidder is under budget, about $168,000 under budget.
That's good.
And so tonight, we're actually looking to get that moved along. I believe you have the bid tabs that were there.
So, and Commissioner Stevens and I were talking this, he serves on that board. The county doing the administration for the bidding process, simply because we have a process already in place, so it complied with state and federal guidelines in doing all that. Coast of Georgia, in the work team as part of the project, both before the bidding and after the bidding and during the review. And we did all the checks, the background checks and everything, history on the contractor, and that recommendation is to engage Lavender and Associates for that. We will be the paying agent initially on the project until the $500,000 of the CDBG funds are expended. And at that time, then Coastal Georgia, through the federal grant, will pick up and pay the remainder of the project. There will be a co-owner of the project, if you will, because of that, with the contractor. So both us and Coastal Georgia will be on the contract with the general contractor for the project because those funds are both involved.
Okay? So
Brown.
Lavender and Associates,
Is that who it?
Mr. Holton?
That's correct.
Yeah, right.
That would be for Lavender and Associates. And I think their base bid, you can see where their base bid came in.
Right.
And there are 3 ad alternates that Coastal Georgia was going to take on that, which actually did add to that base bid. So the total amount together, let's see, was 8,440,400.
Right.
So, but they have a pretty healthy contingency on that. So they're going to take about $15,000 out of contingency to pay for that overage. But that was the alternates for like adding impact windows to the building and really, and digital controls to HVAC so they could have a building management system, really to improve the, as part of the Office of Head Start's program, they wanted to make that a very robust building. So So those improvements did help that.
Uh,
A little side note there, those improvements too required by the federal guidelines because it's being done with actually resiliency monies. After one of the hurricanes, that was appropriated by the federal government. So those are some of the requirements and the stepped up construction design for that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I will say this, and David, correct me. This building that is about to be constructed in Liberty County is going to be one of the most modern building that coastal Georgia has in its whole fleet.
That is correct. This is a kind of a flagship building for them. They're very, a lot of eyes are on it, and it'll be the first of a few that are actually going in through with coastal Georgia. So it'll be somewhat of a prototype.
That's excellent.
Here we go, Liberty County is gonna be looked at again.
Make us Liberty County proud.
Riceboro.
And say that again, where is that located? Where's that located?
Riceboro.
Okay.
Next to the gym.
Yeah, I know, I
In
just,
District 1.
Just want me to say Riceboro again.
right. Right, Spiral.
Mr. Brown, it did meet the
MWB,
MWB.
So there's MWB requirements that were put into the job. This is the only responsive bidder to that MWBE request.
Lavender's been around a while. I heard that name for,
They have been.
yeah, around a while. Lavender and Buckley have been around a while.
Yeah.
We've probably been around longer than that.
All right, Chair, entertain a motion.
Chair, I make a motion that we grant the award to the Liberty County Head Start Construction in Liberty County to Lavender and Associate.
Second.
Motion and second, we approve the bid presented by Mr. Buckley on behalf of Lavender Associate, Mr. Brown. Any further discussion about this flagship building that's going to be built in Liberty County, but rest in the city of Riceboro? We'll share. We share, but we're co-owners. Am I right, Mr. Brown?
We will be.
All right, all right. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, motion passes.
Good. That's gonna be, a lot of people are gonna be excited about it.
No, we're excited. We can't wait to see it come out of the
Children
ground.
are too.
Thank you, David, for your
Yeah.
effort and work. I know you put in a lot of work with it.
Yes, sir. I
You
do.
put up with us down there from coastal Georgia, and, you know, hey, I just want to say thank you.
You know, everything happens for a reason, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that being over budget and all that happened for a reason, and now there's even a nicer,
Yes, it is.
nicer project out there.
Yes, it is. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you,
Appreciate your effort.
county, for the help with that too, because that, I know that's helped coastal.
It
Georgia a
has.
lot, so.
It has.
At least now we'll have everything,
Being the big brother.
everything will be consolidated.
and I'm just ecstatic that this project, you know, is moving forward. I mean, we've discussed this for 20 moons now. And I don't even think I had gray hair when we first
But
started.
a very worthy project.
Right, but it's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again, sir. Be safe on the road. We'll reschedule Ms. Martin, but you heard Attorney Davis' remarks about the Board of Elections and how they have, how they're operating in excellency over there. So if you do get a chance to stop over or call, please do so. I think they would appreciate that, especially as they gear up now for the, January 5th election. So let's appreciate what they do. Resolution of Mayor's Bank.
Actually, that's the one, Mr. Chairman, that was removed.
Okay,
The excavator that was
Oops.
previously approved by the
Okay.
board is going to actually be bought by splosh funds
all right.
out of a drainage account.
So I scratched the wrong one out there, okay. Mid-Coast,
Yes, sir. You may remember me during a recent report letting you know that all the hangar units were full, have been full for quite some time at Midcoast. That was on our CIP list to construct, that we had to submit to GDOT. So, and I think I actually gave an update that we were bidding the project. So we received 3 bids on the project for the construction of the hangar. The low bidder on that project was Harper and Company Builders at a cost of $933 even. That price does include civil work that has to be done also on the hangar unit. I think I provided you a breakout in the memo of the total cost, including civil construction inspection and the hangars, which is roughly 1.182 million. You see the breakdown there of the federal and state share that would be available for the project, leaving a local share of 606,013. As we work down on some VE items, that cost is actually going to be closer to 555. So I've attached a schedule that was provided by Ameris Bank to the Industrial Authority, who, as you remember, are partners with us on everything that goes on with the airport in the city of Hinesville. And what you see is an annual debt service there associated with a 5-year loan at 3.6% for a loan amount not to exceed 555 on that. Broken out to the right, you also see the annual debt requirements that would go along with that for the 5-year term. You also see the hangar revenue that would be achieved. We have a waiting list, actually pre-signed up list to rent these hangars once they're constructed. That annual hangar revenue will be 43.2, leaving a partner share annually if the project goes forward of $26,085. This would be part of the operational budget that the Development Authority oversees on behalf of the partners for the operation of the airport. I think it's safe to say too that as we look at that budget each year, the partner shares have gone down because increased gas sales have gone up, the activity's gone up, and the rent and some of the things there. So that, actually it would not, even at this max amount, we would not need to increase our operational budget for our share to the airport by $26,085. That's really going to be closer, probably somewhere to about $15,000 annually, because our normal cost has already gone down some in this year. So the local joint management board partners met, reviewed these, and have made a request for me to appear before this board, the city council, and the Development Authority board to recommend to move forward with the hangar construction, not to exceed the issuance of some debt of $555 over 5 years. The other thing that could possibly happen, as you know, if the governing bodies approve any remaining debt on this in year 2023, and again, you've got that schedule out there, could be rolled over to the new SPLOST program. Midcoast is an anchor in that program. It would not take much at all to tick that up and then relieve the general fund obligations if they're still there in year 2023. So that is an option that you will have at that time if you choose to do that. So
That'd be a good option if we can.
yes, it is a good option. I will tell you too that looking at a couple of ways, possibly we even drive that 555 down another $100,000. Started looking at those yesterday. So really, I guess what I'm asking the board to do tonight is to follow the recommendation of the local JMB to move forward with the project in a final amount not to exceed the issuance of $555,000 in debt. Understanding that none of that debt's going to be incurred until I come back again to the bodies and give you the final amount. This would be the absolute max that it would be. And I'm prepared to answer any questions.
Was that the best interest rate?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
For, I guess, that type of loan, because.
Yes, ma'am, it is. It's really,
Well, it's
really
not a
pretty
bad
good
rate,
interest
but
rate.
I was
yeah, I mean, with the economy coming back, Kim Clark and I were talking about interest rates. I'm glad that we're able to use these like they are.
Yeah.
Some refinancing things we're doing
Yes.
too. Those probably won't last
No.
a lot longer.
Commissioner still see on TV, they're throwing around zeros for cars.
But,
Well, yeah, I think that's, I was noting that as 0% for 84
I know,
months.
right?
I'm thinking, I'm not sure it's anything left after 84 months.
Right,
You're
but earlier today, I was on that virtual conference call with the defined benefits and defined contributions, and they were talking about interest rates and about the economy, and also with the election and their forecasts, and actually, they believe that with everything that's going on, even with the with the COVID situation, I mean, they do believe that our economy is still going to be striving and coming back. So, with that being said, just like you said, man, You know, we need to try to refinance everything we can on this side. And
Before
your
rebound,
personal
huh?
stuff too, because, yeah, those days are coming to an end, so.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I guess one more note, I still do need to meet with the Development Authority and with the city. And so I would say that probably any vote that you take would be also contingent upon
Them
total
approving.
partner approval, yes.
All right, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I would offer that motion that we approve Mr. Brown to move forward with the loan, but not to exceed the $555,000.
No movement.
Motion,
Second.
got 2 seconds here, all right.
All right.
Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand, please. And I like the part where it says maybe the next SPOS could help to eradicate the balance. That's great.
Yes, sir, actually,
Or family entertainment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
even if
I didn't
we,
give up yet.
even if we had to borrow that and didn't advance pay anything, in 2023, that balance would be about $250,000.
Yeah, that's not-
Easy right off. All right. Thanks, sir.
Next.
Lease agreement?
Yes, sir, this is an informational item for tonight, and then Mr. Davis and I have talked about having some definitive agreement ironed out at least by the mid-month of December. So you might remember, or you do remember, that we were leasing from Eastern District Fire 2 stations, one at Sunbury, which is the main station, and the Colonel's Island Station, which is what this refers to. Those leases expire at the end of this year on purpose, because we know we're going to be moving. We are starting to move into the new station now, and we'll be hopefully doing a ribbon cutting in January. So we won't have to worry about the Sunbury main station anymore. That reverts back to Mr. Martin. We did want to continue the lease of the Colonel's Island substation, where we've got 2 units there because of the 5-mile radius requirements and because of the area. What has happened is that Mr. Martin has transferred that facility from Eastern District to the Colonel's Island Sport Fishing Club, which is a nonprofit corporation that's been established to basically take control of that property and a little property next door that's a park for the community area. So what we're needing to do is to have a lease agreement now with the new owner, basically is what it is. The lease agreement will contemplate payment of $1,000 a month for that property, which will go, to that club. Again, it's a nonprofit. It really can't make and hold money. So in talking with those folks, the intent of them is to put it back into that facility. Won't be real long. We've been here a long time. That facility used to have a kitchen area and a little meeting room in it, and over time that was removed. Their intent is to go back and put that back in, which will provide a little community meeting room and also some restrooms and all for our folks that want to use it. So their intent is to take that money and put it back in the station there also. This $1,000, and Commissioner Stevens asked a great question this week about the budget on that. It is already budgeted for $1,000 to continue, because again, we did contemplate keeping the station even if it stayed under Eastern District's guidance. So it's a budgeted amount. Again, we're ironing out the details of that. Don't think there'll be any major issues to encounter, and we'll bring you back a final agreement. Kind of just a point of note for you tonight.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown, one thing I thought about, you said they wanted to install the kitchen and the bathroom for meetings. Okay, where will the trucks be at while they're having these meetings, right there?
Well, what used to happen, in fact, I can remember attending a Lions Club meeting over the first splosh down there, I think, ML Cofer one night, is that actually in the back of those bays is where that was constructed. You can see where they took the walls out. So I wouldn't think that there'd be an area of separation. There used to be a door that led from the Bay Area into that kitchen facility, into the restrooms, and that would just be put back. I think it'll be exactly like it was, Commissioner Stevens.
Okay.
When will you bring this back for us?
No later than mid-month in December.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
We'll look for it then.
All right.
All right, alcoholic beverage license.
This is a change of ownership at 5240 Highway 196 West to a new owner, Ruta Kelly. And I will, let me see what that name was. I was going to try to pronounce that for you. Jagu Incorporated. probably got that wrong. Sheriff recommends approval, and planning and zoning has okayed it also.
I would think it's the only convenience store in Gun Branch or right on. I'll make that motion. We approve it.
Rick and Brew, okay.
On the main.
We have a motion from Commissioner Thrift, is a second.
A second.
Motion second, we approve the license request. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay.
All right. Announcement, sir?
Just in general, you got a Christmas parade coming up. We'll have the car ready for that, and if we have an entry other than that, we just need to know so we can inform the chamber of that. Also, just remember, please, in your December 1st meeting, or in the first meeting in December, you'll be recognizing the retirees in that meeting, so it ought to be a pretty good time there.
Okay.
Be up here.
And we had,
Yes, ma'am.
And the parade, I'm sorry, was the 4th?
The 4th.
Not sure of that date. I just know.
I think
they're
it's a
having it.
Friday, I believe.
The first Friday, they normally have.
oh, I'm off.
Anything
I'll
else,
be there.
anything else for good in order?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to mention this to the board, and we can think about it before time sneaks up on us. You know, we go out to Fort Stewart every year for our retreat, waiting on the big airplane to come in. So it seems like we rush out there in one day or half a day. And I just think sometime we actually need to extend that time if we have to do it in a 2 days
I agree.
time frame instead of trying to rush in and rush out. And
Absolutely.
I agree with
that's something that, you know, we can think about.
Right. And just piggybacking off Commissioner Stevens, you know, I know in the past we've tried to accommodate whoever we can, but with all due respect, the ones that's coming, they're gonna come. So I'd rather the ones that's gonna be there, let's just get to work and make sure that we don't look over certain details just because of a time restraint. So if we could do that.
Yeah, I
Or
agree.
if we could consider that, Mr. Chair.
We can.
We'll be
It feels a little awkward being on this side. You know?
We'll be
Gary,
looking
but-
at those calendars.
Right.
To try to schedule that in the February timeframe anyway. That's normally something we get together on in December. And I got that on the list, so we'll look at 2 separate sessions, half days.
Yes,
Okay.
half days.
Be fantastic. I feel like we rushed through it too.
We do. We don't have time to finish it or digest
It's
it.
so much good stuff that you
Yes,
can't get all
it
done,
is.
yeah.
Right. And one more thing, I just have an announcement. Tonight at, I think, like 8:30, on IG, they having a versus between Jeezy and Gucci. Gucci Man. I'm going for Jeezy. Just want to let y'all know. Versus. You know when they put the two artists against each other? Yes, tonight.
All right,
Wanna
off we
catch
go.
it?
Order. Chair, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right, so move. Thank y'all.
All in favor, we adjourn. Thank you.
That's
Have a great and safe Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir, you too.
I will.